Thanks so much, Amanda, and good evening to all those attending. My name is Tim Bewes. I'm a professor of English here at Brown, and really pleased to be in residence at the Cogut Institute for the Humanities this spring 2022. In the last few years, I've been working on a subfield of literary studies known as the theory of the novel, a field that is around 100 years old, depending on how you conceptualize both the novel and its theorization. The founder of the field is generally taken to be the Marxist thinker Georg Lukács, who in 1914 to 15 wrote the first work to be called The Theory of the Novel. There have been several other books with that title since. But there's a particular strain in Lukács's thinking about the novel that has a special interest for me, and a special relevance, I argue, for our times. That strain has to do with the failure of his theoretical project when it comes to explaining what the novel is and what the novel does. Almost every other theorist of the novel begins with the scholarly instinct to explain, to understand, to theorize. The theorist proposes to explain what this thing, the novel, is, what it is really saying, underneath what it seems to be saying, what it is doing, why it emerges historically when it does. What work, ideological, ethical, constitutive, it performs. And in a similar way, literary critics approach the novel in order to tell you what this novel that you are reading means. These presuppositions are fine when it comes to other disciplines, other literary forms, other discursive and scholarly endeavors. But Lukács's insight is that such interpretive approaches do not work when it comes to the novel, for the simple reason that what you encounter when you read a novel are nothing but isolated subjectivities, each of which makes utterances that have no assurance whatsoever of connecting to really existing relations or the world of ethical necessity, for their factual basis cannot extend beyond the psychological realm. Underlying the novel is what he calls a dissonance of unspoken and unspeakable meaning, a dissonance that itself speaks of something quite devastating to contemplate, a fragility to the world and to our attempts to make sense of it. In such formulations, what Lukács is proposing is that the novel never achieves any kind of signifying closure. What the novel reveals is something far more disturbing, the futility of human aspirations, the absurdity of existence, and in perhaps the most devastating formulation in the book, quote, the possibility of the ultimate nothingness of man, unquote. When the novel does attain closure, the result is invariably unsatisfactory, mere entertainment, consolation, what Lukács would later in his Marxist phase call ideology. By avoiding such closure, the novel remains faithful to its essence as a form for an age where all truths are suspect by definition, where the only insights possible are fleeting, local, and evanescent. The novel, says Lukács, is a form for a world abandoned by God. These pessimistic formulations have become famous, even notorious, in Lukács studies. But the field of novel theory that Lukács founded has mostly turned away from them. One looks in vain for the work of later theorists for any attempt to grapple with their meaning or their implications. Generally speaking, the field of novel theory has been constructed on the basis of a series of terms that, on the contrary, try to bridge the ontological and rhetorical abyss that was revealed in Lukács's early work. Terms such as realism, according to which the novel, quote, embodies in microcosm the dialectics of the historical moment, unquote, or ethics, by which the novelist, quote, strives to represent the other in her own terms as a speaking subject, unquote, or finally irony, in which everything in the novel is seen as many-sided, unquote. I'm quoting three different, more contemporary critics there. My own work on the novel returns to and takes seriously Lukács's insights about the novel in the light of certain developments in the contemporary novel that seem to bear out his ideas. But the particular emphasis of my current project, the project I will be working on during my time at the Cogut Institute, is in trying to develop a critical and scholarly register appropriate to that fundamental insight of Lukács's theory of the novel, that the thought of the novel escapes all critical methods that set out to understand the novel as a form, or that try to bridge the gap using one theoretical term or another. In other words, I'm setting out to develop a critical register on the novel that responds to the inaccessibility of its thought to theoretical discourse. Thanks so much for being here and for listening. I'm looking forward to the conversation going forward.